And for more on that, Emma James is here with today's Media Watch. It's good to see you, Emma.
Hi there.
And you've been keeping a close eye on Mark Zuckerberg over the past couple of days. He's been pretty cool and calm, hasn't he? And the investors certainly seem to like what he has to say. We've seen the share price going up. He's done pretty well, hasn't he?
Yes, it does seem that it doesn't matter what Mark Zuckerberg does, he can do no wrong when it comes to the financial welfare of Facebook. He's been answering questions for a second day from US lawmakers. And unlike this cartoon, which portrays him struggling to fix that sort of flow of data flooding out of Facebook, he doesn't seem to have had too much difficulty controlling events on Capitol Hill over the last 48 hours. The Guardian has this piece talking about Facebook still has all the power. And this is beautifully, neatly illustrated by the fact that two of the toughest questioners of Mark Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill were Richard Blumenthal and Kamala Harris. But both of them took to Twitter yesterday to advise their followers to go to, where else but Facebook, to actually be able to watch everything happening live. And it really just goes to show just how much Facebook is intertwined with so much of what we do every day. Yeah. One person replying to Kamala Harris.
Hearing on Facebook.
Absolutely. One person replying saying, ironic, I deleted my Facebook account because of all of this. Now, there isn't that much evidence that there has been a huge backlash in terms of people actually deleting Facebook. Facebook themselves, so they haven't seen that many changes. But what's interesting to note as well is that Mark Zuckerberg is so well drilled to the point where he has been criticised as appearing robotic, giving his answers. Now, lots of people have been commenting on the fact that photographs of 2 pages of his notes were actually published on Twitter. He left it unattended during one of the breaks. And you can see there are pages and pages of them. And basically, it's stock answers, hints and tips for pretty much every eventuality that he could face. People have loved this idea. In a gross privacy breach, someone leaned over Mark Zuckerberg's shoulder and photographed his notes. He didn't give them permission, but maybe one of his friends did. This gentleman asking if they were left there accidentally on purpose, perhaps, to convey some particular message by Mark Zuckerberg. And this Twitter user has come up with a drawing of what she imagines is on those notes. And you've got me with Mark Zuckerberg holding handfuls of cash, and everyone else is deemed to be suckers with their hair on fire. Now, perhaps the fact that he has been giving these very controlled, very PR-friendly answers actually made some people a little bit more prepared today, because one of the toughest times that he got was from a senator from Tennessee, a congresswoman, it's called Marsha Blackburn. And what she said is that she would not allow him to filibuster because he started to give those very standard press-friendly answers, the talking points that clearly were on the notes in front of him. And she wasn't having any of it. She wanted an answer, and she wanted an answer quickly, none of this other nonsense. And just to show how incredibly stage managed it is, he's actually been using a booster seat, as this woman calls it, saying, no joke. This Twitter user actually saying that because he's only 5'7", his team has him sitting on a 4-inch cushion because they know it's important for him not to look small or meek in any of the pictures or the coverage.
Not counting on any photographers getting behind the chair, unfortunately. Right. Now, rather than exposing Mark Zuckerberg, this couple of days of hearings has really exposed some of the lawmakers, hasn't it, and their lack of knowledge about technology.
Yes, it's one of those unfortunate things. There is a real generational gap when it comes to Facebook use. People of a certain age just don't get how it works. Lots of people feeling that basically the US lawmakers fall into that category. And you have to say, when you see some of the questions that have been asked, one asked why she kept seeing adverts for chocolate on Facebook, or we know what she's been buying. One asked if she really had as many friends as Facebook said she had, getting it a bit confused with Twitter there, where you get lots of fake accounts following you. Another asked about emails on WhatsApp, and you can't actually send emails via WhatsApp. Well, obviously, the most missing the point, wide of the mark question of all was how do you make money if Facebook is free? And of course, they make their money from adverts, which is part of what all this fuss is about. Lots of people joking about it. This person putting words into the mouth of Senator Chuck Grassley. Mr. Zuckerberg, a magazine I recently opened came with a floppy disk offering me 30 free hours of something called America Online. Is that the same as Facebook? I don't think they're quite as clueless as that, but it's not always too far wide of the mark. Stephen Colbert, the comedian, says, almost feel bad for Zuckerberg. There's no way he left that room full of old people without having to set up their Wi-Fi. Now, as for others, some have been basically veering very much off topic, Ted Cruz in particular, to talk about political bias and the censorship of conservative pages. Now, he really ripped into Mark Zuckerberg, and if you were on Twitter at the time that he was asking his questions, you would be forgiven for thinking this was the greatest exchange in political history, because the right wing absolutely loved it. However, this tweet is typical really from the Columbia Bugle, saying it is absolutely glorious because they see Facebook as everything that is wrong with liberal society, and Mark Zuckerberg is the king of the liberals. But what a lot of people are pointing out is that perhaps Ted Cruz chose not to talk too much about the data leaks and the use of people's profiles by Cambridge Analytica, because Ted Cruz's presidential campaign had actually paid Cambridge Analytica $5.8 million in 2015 and 2016. So, as you can see, perhaps he wanted to keep himself away from that particular...
The plot thickens.
Yes, absolutely. A bit of a hornet's nest that he could have stirred up there. One very interesting revelation from today is that it has struck personally at Mark Zuckerberg. His data was among those leaked to Cambridge by Cambridge Analytica. However, a lot of people not feeling that sorry for him, because he does keep talking about the onus is really on Facebook users to take responsibility for their privacy. He talks about you choose what you share and who with, and basically trying to sort of wash his hands of it all. And this woman saying, it makes me think he still doesn't fully get what has happened here. And it does rather remind me of, I don't know if you remember Airplane, the movie, but there's a guy in that who says, they bought the tickets, they knew what they were getting themselves into, I say let them crash. And it is a little bit like that. Mark Zuckerberg saying, hey, you signed up for this, you clicked on the privacy deals, you get what you pay for or what you don't, more to the point when it comes to Facebook.
All right, watch what you share online. That is a great film. Glad you brought that one up. Emma, thank you very much indeed. Emma James there with Media Watch.